Overnight, global markets and policymakers are being pulled in two directions: accelerating technological change and a sharp rise in geopolitical and supply chain risk linked to the Iran war. On global conflict, the UAE says a drone strike landed near the Abu Dhabi nuclear power plant, calling it a dangerous escalation. Officials say there was no damage and radiation levels are normal, but the incident raises the stakes for regional security and critical infrastructure. In Europe, Russia says a large-scale Ukrainian drone attack killed 3 in the Moscow region, while Ukraine's president described the strikes as a justified response to Russian attacks on Ukrainian cities. In Gaza, families report they are still unable to recover and bury bodies believed trapped under rubble, underscoring the continuing humanitarian crisis. On the global economy, the Financial Times reports the Iran-linked energy crunch is entering a new phase as peak summer demand approaches, with emergency measures spreading and oil stockpiles running low. Freight markets are also reacting. Gulf freight rates have jumped as some shipping companies shift to trucking, adding thousands of dollars in extra costs and highlighting how quickly conflict can feed into inflation pressures through transport and energy. On health security, the WHO has declared the Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of the Congo an international health emergency. The BBC reports roughly 246 cases and 80 deaths so far. The WHO says it does not meet the threshold for a pandemic emergency, but the declaration signals heightened global coordination and resourcing. On politics and the technological revolution, the Financial Times says the U.S. defense sector is undergoing a seismic shift as disruption reshapes the military-industrial complex. The direction of travel matters for artificial intelligence. Defense procurement and battlefield innovation are increasingly tied to AI-enabled surveillance, targeting, logistics and cyber capabilities, with flow-on effects for allied industries and investment. Turning to Australia, the ABC reports a push for Australia to extract helium as the Middle East war disrupts global supply. Helium is critical for healthcare, equipment and for manufacturing microchips and semiconductors, so the supply shock is being framed as both a strategic risk and a potential opportunity for Australia's gas sector. The key question for government and industry will be whether domestic extraction and processing can be scaled fast enough to matter, and on what commercial and environmental terms. In federal politics and policy, ABC reports Liberal Senator Andrew McLaughlin has broken ranks to warn against opposition Treasury spokesman Angus Taylor's proposed welfare cuts for non-citizens, raising concerns about rhetoric around mass immigration and the practical impact on tax-paying migrants. The debate points to a broader pre-election contest over migration settings, budget repair, and the boundary between eligibility rules and social cohesion. On regulation and cost of living, The Guardian reports the federal court has found Coles misled shoppers by promoting discounts that were not real, following action by the consumer watchdog. The ruling puts major retailers on notice and may intensify scrutiny of pricing practices at a time when households remain highly price-sensitive. On housing, The Guardian reports new analysis suggesting underquoting remains widespread, with Sydney buyers typically paying close to $120,000 above the advertised price guide. That gap reinforces the pressure on affordability and the difficulty for buyers trying to plan finance in a tight market. That's the latest on the major overnight developments across conflict, the global economy, technological change, and the key Australian policy and cost of living fronts.